when the first trailer dropped, the Blockbuster scene was so fun for me to watch because I used to ride my bike to Blockbuster every day and rent like Terminator 2. Remember, I'll never forget that. I was curious what your experience was with Blockbuster growing up. Did you go up there? Did you have movies that you rented over and over?
Totally. I mean, my earliest memories from Blockbuster are so young. It was like, do you remember Shelley Duvall's like Fairy Tale Theater? I wore out the VHS. Like you'd have to do the thing where you'd press like the rewind or like the forward at the same time as the play to try to get like the lines to not show up on the VHS anymore. Yeah. So those are some of my earliest memories is like the awe of being in that place and also like the anxiety of trying to pick out what your rental was going to be.
I miss not knowing if it's going to be there.
Yeah.
I would wait at the drop box and you know what I mean?
Showing up and being like, and seeing the row of them and there's no other VHS behind it. Yeah.
So I was doing some research and I'm a comic book movie fan, but I would not consider myself a diehard comic reader. So this was fascinating to me, and I'm sure that you're aware of this as well, but Zach Levi is starring in Shazam, and that character is called Captain Marvel originally in the comics for that. And I was just curious the coincidence of these two movies coming out at the same year. I know they're completely different characters, but do you know, Zach? Have you talked to him about this crazy coincidence of these characters having the same name?
No, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea why studios decide to do what they do when they come out, but I've known Zach for a couple of years, I guess, but not very closely or anything.
Okay. Now, one thing I want to say, one thing I love about you is you had a great story happen recently about inclusivity and diversity in press. And I'm a white male, and I commended you completely on that. But
Thanks.
most people, when that article dropped, it was headlines that were completely taking you out of context. Like she wants no white men at like press junction, which is not what you were saying. And people need to read the articles to actually find out the context of what you were saying.
Yeah.
But as an actor, when you have to say something like that, do you worry about how things get twisted? And for audiences who only do read headlines, can you clarify what you were saying? 'Cause I think it's awesome what you're doing, and I hope that more actors do it.
I mean, it's hard for me to comment on that because I don't know what the headlines were or what was said or what I said or what people think that I said. All that I know is like, what I'm looking for is to bring more seats up to the table.
Yep.
No one's getting their chair taken away. There's not less seats at the table. There's just more seats at the table.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love that you're doing that, and please, I hope every actor sees what you're doing and does it more because we need more diversity.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Now, the special effects in this movie are incredible. The de-aging of Samuel L. Jackson blew my mind. I was curious, when you're actually flying around as Captain Marvel, how much of that do you actually go into a studio and do some of the facial capture so they can put you in those sequences?
Yeah, so that's like a complicated question. I mean, it depends kind of on what it is that we're doing. So some of it's my body. So you're on kind of a crazy wire system. Yeah, and it's a little bit of like camera movement and a little bit of like me twisting my body. And some of it is like just a total CGI body because I don't even know how you could possibly shoot me flying around in space.
Well, if you punch a spaceship, though, do you actually do that in a studio? Like when you that scene, I was geeking out. I had nerd tears. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life, watching a character with her bare hands punch a spaceship out of the sky.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So yeah, it kind of depends on what it is, and usually it's up to the VFX supervisor to decide, like, is it just going to be my face or is it going to be my whole body? But we did a lot of it practically. I mean, that was the cool thing about this movie is we tried to like go back to basics with this. Like a lot of our sets were all, if we weren't on an actual location, they were built. There was very little green screen stuff done on this movie because we wanted it to feel real.
Yeah, there's a great moment in the movie where you're interviewing Nick Fury, and I won't give away the punchline about whether or not he's a Skrull or not. And the thing he comes up with for his obscure fact is hilarious. And I was just curious, if you were to be interviewed hypothetically and someone were to say, I need to make sure you're Brie Larson, what's the one obscure thing you'd bring up to go, this is actually me, I'm not a Skrull? I mean, I know it's a movie, but...
Well, I know, but that wouldn't really make any sense, because how would you know what my obscure... I could just make up anything. I could make up anything. I'd be like, I only eat red delicious apples, which is not true. I think that's like the worst apple possible.
Green's way better than red.
I feel like I'm more of a Fuji person, but I'm okay with the green. I'm okay with the green.
All right. I'm a huge fan of filmmaking. I tell you that every time. The de-aging is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, Lola's getting better.
It's amazing. I'm wondering how much of it is the hair, makeup, and how much of it is CG. Like, what's going on set? Do you have dots? Do you have to go back?
Yeah, I have dots.
Okay.
So I worked every day with just dots on my face and a wig. But yeah, dots and a wig, and the rest of it is them. But fortunately, I had a couple movies from that time period that they could probably use my face. I look at it and I see Danny Roman from Negotiator.
Oh my gosh! Did they actually take any shots from those movies and use them?
Well, they use them because I have facial expressions from those films that work in this film.
Can I ask, besides Negotiator, are there other facial expressions you recognize in the movie at all?
I have no idea.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I've only seen the film once, so.
Wow, I've seen it twice. I've seen it more than you.
Oh, you've seen it twice?
Seen it twice, yes, sir. So obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this is the first time you played Nick Fury without having the eye patch.
Right.
This is something I've always wanted to ask you because when you have the eye patch, it obviously covers up one of your eye, and I'm wondering how that affects how you hit your marks. And then now playing Nick Fury and having to be able to have two eyes, what was it like to play him and be able to see everything through his character?
Well, I don't necessarily think about that. I did discover when I did Captain America. Captain America? No, Avengers. I discovered when we were doing Avengers that I have to learn lines with one eye. For some reason, that visually, that when I do it with two eyes and I get there and I cover one eye, I lose part of my memory for some reason.
Oh.
So that's different. But other than that, I hit the marks. You learn to move your head and you can see where you're going. Or like most times, I just count steps from one place to another and I get to those number of steps. I know them on my mark. Playing him with two eyes is just, it's simple. He's a different guy, different worldview. It's essentially as much an origin story for audience members about Nick as it is for her.
Yeah, and you mentioned Nick. I mean, you played this character so many times now. You go back to like the earlier days of the MCU, and now you play a character that long. Is there any aspect of Nick that you've taken into your own life? Like any aspects of him that you kind of like learned about yourself through playing Nick Fury?
Not really. I think there's more of me and him than him and me.
That's interesting. Yeah. Now, there's a great moment in this film. I won't give away the punchline, but there's this whole bit where they have to figure out if someone's a Skrull or not, and you go through like almost like an interview process and ask someone questions to find out if they're the real person.
Right.
What is an obscure thing you'd bring up about yourself to prove you're Sam Jackson if that hypothetically happened to you? Because I love what you say in the movie. I won't give it away because it's a great punchline.
An obscure thing about me?
Yeah.
It would probably be, an aspect of my golf superstitions.
Which ones?
Everybody has them.
Oh, we can ask what one it is?
How many tees do I have in my pocket when I actually start playing a round of golf?
How many?
I'm not going to tell you that.
I want to know.
Only a few people know that.
Well, that's awesome to know. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for always being so nice to me.
How's things in D.C.?
Great, man.
Right.
On your Instagram, you posted the poster of yourself. And you said, a black woman wearing a flight suit on screen in this year, 2019. Amazing. Look, what was it like to see that poster for the first time and just like what that stands for?
I mean, when you've wanted something so long and then you see it, you kind of have to like go through the different facets of your brain to see if it's actually happening. Because I'm a Marvel fan. So to see my little face with like the Marvel background it was bizarre. But I knew in that moment, and just sending it to my friends as well was like, what am I representing? This is like everything that I wanted when I was a child. Do you know what I mean? It's like it just encapsulated so much of what I want for this industry in one poster. I felt very, very proud. Very proud to like show it to my mum and be like, look!
You should make that your Christmas card every year for the rest of ever. Like that's an amazing, that's so cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Will Disney actually give you a full-size theatrical poster you can like hang up on your wall?
Ooh.
Someone at Disney needs to get this taken care of immediately.
I feel like you've got one there.
I don't have one. No, guess what I have? Yeah. It's like when a movie like this big comes out, obviously you'll go to the premiere and things like that. But when you go back home to visit your friends and family, I believe you're based out of the UK.
Yeah.
Will you go to a movie theater and buy a ticket to your own film? Like, will you I feel like that's exactly what I would do if I was in a movie like this.
Yeah, I already want to do it. I was already considering like not seeing it at all and just like going with my best friend.
Oh wow.
Just because it's just such a moment, and like I said, I've like wanted it practically all my life. So to experience it with just like my best friend who is not in the industry as well, I think is quite special. But I've seen it now, and I'm probably going to want to see it 100 more times. So, yeah, I'll absolutely buy a ticket, of course.
Yeah. Now, your daughter in the film is amazing. What it was like working with her? Like, do you now have a relationship with her? Like, do you remain friends with some? Because I mean, it's a very close character you work with.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We were just messaging the other day, actually. She taught me a hell of a lot, man. Kids just teach you so much. They're just so open and like wiser than they think. Yeah. And she imparted a lot of wisdom that I don't think she really knew that she had. It just kind of came out. She would come up with, I would be like, so how should we approach this scene? She'd be like, sit, should we stand, should we hold hands? And she's like, I think we should do this. And I'm like, well, all right, if you say so. And then the directors would be like, great. And I'm like, it wasn't even me, it was Akira. She came up with it. I was kind of just the accessory.
Where's her director's credit? Why isn't she a third director on this movie?
I know, I'll sort it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she was wonderful. Such a bright spark who was perfect for the role. She came in, I auditioned with her, and I was like, she's got it. She's got it. She just knew exactly what to do. So yeah, it was really beautiful to work with her.
First of all, the de-aging on Sam Jackson, unbelievable. Probably some of the most flawless I've ever seen.
Cool.
On set, I know there were facial capture dots, but he was just telling me that they actually used images from earlier movies of his. Is that true?
Just as a reference.
Okay.
So, you know, the wonderful thing about Sam is that he has this huge history of work, and he looks, you know, any year you can find like a different look for him. And so we kind of looked back at all of his images, and we looked with Lola, who is the studio who kind of, the VFX studio who basically ran the de-aging process. And we chose references for how we wanted him to look in the movie. But, you know, they just did their hand painting magic to kind of match that look and really used his performance.
Yeah.
It was regular Sam on set every day that is on that screen, and they just kind of, you know, erased a little bit here, tucked a little bit there, but it was Sam's performance.
And the hair probably plays a big part in it too, which is interesting. The whole thing is incredible to watch. But one thing that the blockbuster sequence is amazing. It was in the first trailer that was released. I was interested in the choices you had along the walls as she walks. You see like a bunch of Arnold movies. I saw Junior. I saw Last Action here. I've seen the movie twice. So I'm looking at all these things. Were those calculated choices of what movies were going to be on the wall as she walks by? You see True Lies. I was wondering what those choices were.
Yeah, they were, and it was also, but some of it was a little coincidental. Like I don't think we intended to have so many Arnold references in there, but it was how they lined up alphabetically. So like, you know, if you pay attention, they're actually lined up, you know, like they're organized in like a video store would be by.
That's so cool.
Alphabet.
And how did you recreate that? Did you go into an old Blockbuster store? 'Cause I visited the last Blockbuster in America recently in Bend, Oregon, just because I'm a huge Blockbuster fan. But like, did you recreate it on a stage? How'd you do it?
It's really memory. No, it was in a strip mall in LA here, and it was an empty space that we recreated. But I worked in a Blockbuster in 1995, so it was a lot of memory that I was going off of there.
Yeah, he was like very, very meticulous and detail-oriented about what exact movies were on the walls, etc.
Yeah, they had a Casino poster up there at some point. I was like, no, Casino wasn't out yet on video.
That's cool. I'm glad the continuity was working there. You know, one of the things one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I won't give away the punchline, is the interviews of how you find somebody if they're a scroll or not. And Sam Jackson has a great punchline. It's the obscure fact he brings up about himself. I was curious if that was to happen to you hypothetically, and someone were to interview you to make sure that you are not a scroll. What's the obscure thing you'd mention about yourself to prove you're you?
I can't. I don't know how to tie my shoelaces.
Really?
No, I just made that up. I just made that up. I don't have one. I don't know what it is.
Blockbuster would probably be a good one. You worked at Blockbuster 95, yeah.
I would say hair conditioner kind of reminds me of mayonnaise and grosses me out a little bit.
That's amazing. You're not a scroll. One thing
How about you?
Probably mine would be, I used to work at a movie theater, AMC 24, and sell tickets to a lot of these movies that I'm interviewing actors for nowadays, which is
That's so
really
cool.
crazy. And last thing for you, the Stan Lee cameo. Talk about filming that cameo. What was that like to have him on set? And what is the art to mastering a good Stan Lee cameo?
You know, it felt right. Like when you look at the script and you're like, where are we gonna put Stan Lee in this movie? That seemed like the right place. Throw him into that scene. But it's just great when he comes on set. It's a real honor to meet him. He's a legend in this business, and everyone really like pays attention. And people come out of the woodworks. You know, some crew member you didn't even know existed will come out trying to shake his hand. But it's cool.